I found out that my wife is cheating on me with my friend. I'm reading her messages on the iPad. My wife and I just got back from a long weekend camping trip with 2 other couples, friends we've known for years. We had a great time. Something happened the morning we left that I can't forget. We were all packing up, getting ready to head home. I was loading the car when I looked up and saw my wife and my friend. They were at the campsite several feet away. She was bending down to pick something up, and in that split second, I saw him reach out and touch her hip. My wife quickly brushed his hand away. She didn't look upset. She was smiling at him, almost playfully. It all happened so fast, maybe a second or two. I looked around, but no one else seemed to have seen it. His wife was busy packing up the car, and the other couple was further away, chatting about the drive back. The drive home was quiet. My wife tried to start a conversation, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying that scene over and over. When she asked why I was so quiet, I lied and said I was thinking about work. The truth is, I was in shock. I didn't want to bring it up. If I mentioned it, she might tell me I was imagining things or being ridiculous. The rest of the day felt like I was on autopilot. I barely slept last night and can hardly focus on work today. My mind keeps racing, questioning every detail. Aside from what I saw, the rest of the trip was great and nothing seemed out of place. Part of me wonders if I misinterpreted the whole situation. But the look on her face, that smile, was too friendly, too casual for something that crossed a line like that. I love my wife completely. We've been together since our freshman year of college, and I've never had any reason to doubt her. She's my best friend, but now, for the first time, there's a knot in my stomach that I can't shake. I've never been one to snoop. I've always trusted her completely. Now I'm sitting here, wondering if I should check her phone. It's password protected, so even if I wanted to, I'm not sure how I'd do it without her finding out. This is eating me up inside, and I know I need to do something about it. Update. I found her iPad. It didn't have a password, so I got in and it's still connected to her phone. She has Telegram on it. They're talking there. I'm still reading the messages. She's been seeing him. I'm trying to keep it together to make the next right move without blowing everything up. What do I do? Do I confront her when she gets home? Do I go to his house and confront him? Please help. Update 2. Thank you all for the advice. I haven't said anything to her. I locked myself in my home office, pretending I needed to catch up on work. She suspects nothing. I kept the iPad with me. She hasn't used it in so long that she won't notice it's missing. I took photos of all their messages using my phone as a safe measure. They've been talking for at least 8 months, as far as I can tell. Telegram seems to be their main communication channel. They sent each other photos, intimate messages, and made plans to make things official after leaving me with his wife. I can't believe she would do this to me. In the messages, I saw she had sent him a suggestive photo of herself on her way to the gym earlier tonight. And when she came home, she started kissing me, wanting intimacy. I turned her down, saying I needed to work. I'm confused and unable to think clearly right now, so I'll follow the advice I received here. Lawyer up, gather evidence. I'll work on it. I also saw several comments advising me to separate my finances from hers. We co-own the apartment we live in and have joint bank accounts. My parents passed away in a car accident 2 years ago and left me a sizable inheritance, which she knows about. She doesn't have access to the money in that fund, but is there something I need to do to protect myself if it comes to that? We don't have children yet. Update 3. I sometimes work from home, and I didn't have any meetings this morning, so I spent time researching and calling lawyers. I have 2 consultations booked tomorrow. He almost couldn't see me until next week. I'll tell his wife and show her the proof once I've chosen a lawyer and covered myself first. After she's informed, I'll give her time to get her affairs in order and secure a lawyer, if that's what she wants to do, before I decide what to do next and how to confront my wife. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm not angry, for some reason. Maybe more numb. Sick to my stomach when I think about the messages I read, especially the intimate ones. I feel like I'm just going through the motions, doing what I need to do right now. But it's almost as if I'm living someone else's life. I don't know how much longer I can keep a poker face without her noticing that something's up. Thank you for your messages and support. Update 4. Everyone, I'm honored by all the messages and advice I've received. Not much has happened since yesterday. I'm just keeping busy with work and going to the gym. My parents' passing anniversary is coming up in about a month, and she obviously knows that, so when she asked why I seemed off, I just told her I'd been thinking about them. I have consultations with several lawyers scheduled, most for next week, with a few later today. I'll update once I choose a lawyer and know what my options are. Update 5. I found an amazing lawyer who was able to draft my divorce papers within a few days, and they were filed this morning. I'm in a no-fault jurisdiction, meaning that all the evidence of infidelity I gathered cannot be used in court. The good news is that my inheritance is safe since I didn't use the money for joint expenses. Our apartment was a wedding gift purchased by our parents. Each side contributed 50% for the down payment, so one of us will have to buy the other's share or we'll both sell it. I called his wife on Saturday and asked to meet her for coffee. I chose that day because, ironically, her husband and my wife had gone on an overnight trip together. I found out from their messages on the iPad. The lies they were telling were, my wife was staying at her sister's house over the weekend to help with the kids while her sister's husband was away on business, and her husband was supposedly traveling for a work project. project. The truth was that my wife and her husband were out of town together, staying in a hotel, all paid for by Mr. Casanova himself. I showed her their Telegram messages. Photos included everything. She told me she had noticed her husband becoming distant and withdrawn a few months ago. She thought it was just work stress and had no reason to suspect he was cheating. Discovering that her husband was in fact cheating and with my wife, who was also her friend, was a blow for her. We talked a bit more, and I gave her my lawyer's contact number. She considered her options. Sunday night, my wife returned from her sister's house. She walked in and greeted me with kisses, saying she missed me after spending the weekend with her lover. Her ability to compartmentalize is almost diabolical. I sat her down and said we needed to talk. I recorded the entire conversation without her knowledge. Following my lawyer's advice, I live in a one-party consent state. It went like this. I asked her to promise to be honest with me. Of course, baby, but she looked nervous. And I asked a series of questions. You love me? Yes. Are you happy with me? Yes, of course, baby. Have I been a good husband to you? Do I treat you well? Yes and yes. What's going on? Have I ever done anything to hurt you, either physically or emotionally? No, of course not. What's going on? Okay, so if you're happy with me, why are you cheating on me? She stared at me in shock for a good minute and then immediately began denying. This went on for a while, and then I just told her to stop pretending because I found out the truth. Eventually, she broke down and admitted to kissing a guy who hit on her at a bar during a night out with her friend a few months ago. I don't know why, but at this point, I started laughing because the whole thing was just absurd. Not only had she been unfaithful, she had taken every opportunity she found to betray me. I asked if that was the only time she cheated. She swore up and down that it was the only time, that it was a moment of weakness. She was drunk and that it meant nothing. I said nothing. Gave her my lawyer's business card and told her I had filed for divorce. I hadn't yet. I wanted to speak with her one time first to see if there was anything left of our marriage worth saving, and that if she wanted to talk to me, she should call my lawyer. She cried, begged, apologized, and then, when I started packing, she began gaslighting, saying I was throwing away everything we had over one mistake. And the worst part of what she said was that I had no one else in the world, so why would I leave the only family I had left? That hurt because I had told her she was my only remaining family after my parents passed away, and there was no one else I could trust. Just for her to throw those same words back in my face. I left that night for a hotel where I've been staying until I find a new apartment. Yesterday, I officially filed for divorce. Edit. Responses to some comments. I didn't tell her that I knew about the affair after she said she had kissed a random guy at a bar. She ended up finding out from her lover's wife, who confronted him and called her out as well. His wife was genuinely furious when I told her and couldn't hold back. I don't blame her. It really put her through a lot. Her mother is ill, and she's been traveling frequently to stay with her, and instead of supporting her, he's been using that time to be with my wife. I didn't say anything because I was caught off guard when she told me she kissed a random guy at a bar. It may seem minor compared to the double life she's been leading with my friend, but at that moment, I think I began to realize just how eager she was to betray me, and it was a shock. I was too angry to say anything to her without blowing up in her face. So I just walked out. It's hard to explain why. It just made more sense to leave than to try to figure out why she was sleeping with my friend after hearing that from her. After I left the house, she kept calling me that night and leaving messages. When her lover's wife called her the next day and also confronted her husband, she stopped trying to contact me. It's been silent on her end ever since. From him too. I put two and two together because around the time her lover's wife messaged me, say she confronted him and called my wife stopped calling me. Update 6 to 9 days later, a few updates since I last posted. My wife received the divorce papers last week. I'm still at the hotel and close to finding a new apartment last week. When I left, I forgot to take the iPad with me. I grabbed it when I returned a few days later to pick up clothes and other things. Apparently, my wife had a falling out with a friend who was with her at the bar, accusing her of being the one who told me about her kiss with that handsome guy. Her friend is no longer speaking to her. It seems, after everything happened, his wife kicked him out and he's staying at his sister's house. She and I have been talking. She found a lawyer and is filing for divorce. She informed our few mutual friends about what's happening, and they all cut off contact with them. On top of that, the jerk went to MY house and spent the night with my wife twice last week. She's also been messaging her sister, who apparently knew about the affair. My wife apparently found a lawyer and was complaining to her sister that her lawyer explained the property division and confirmed that she has no right to my inheritance she thought was unfair. Here's the kicker. All the conversations about getting an apartment together and making the relationship official have significantly cooled off since my wife's visit to her lawyer, which I found strange. A few days ago, I got a message from her asking if we could take a break from the divorce process. She said she loves me, thinks we're going crazy with this, and that everyone deserves a second chance. She even hit me with the whole, "I can't live without you" nonsense. If I didn't have the iPad, I might have thought she was genuinely remorseful. But knowing what she's been up to all week, I knew this only happened after she realized she wouldn't be entitled to a penny of my inheritance. Honestly, this hurt like hell. I'm following my lawyer's advice, who told me not to respond. The more I think about it, the more disgusted I feel with her, my friend, and her sister. The fact that her change of heart seems to stem entirely from her discovery that she won't get her hands on my inheritance is more than disturbing. I always intended to use that money for a trust fund if we had kids, something I told her countless times. I didn't touch it because it reminded me of the trauma of losing my parents. The level of disrespect she has shown, not just to me, but now to my parents, who loved her and treated her like a daughter, is beyond comprehension. attention. I'm glad they aren't here to see this. I met with his wife over the weekend. She's also my friend, and she's having a tough time, especially with her mom's health issues on top of all this chaos. I told her about the messages. Long story short, she had been reconsidering the divorce after her husband tried to reconcile with her. But when I showed her the messages about my inheritance and pointed out how their messages cooled down, she saw things differently. She also shared something that struck me. Apparently, a few months after my parents passed, her husband made a comment about how I was a lucky SOB for inheriting their money. She confronted him then, shocked that he'd call me lucky after I lost them, and he backtracked, claiming he didn't mean it that way. At the time, she brushed it off. Now she's questioning his motives. It sounds ridiculous, but she's starting to wonder if they thought they'd get their share after divorcing me and starting a new life together. Either way, their behavior is disgusting. I've been trying to take care of myself. I started therapy, have been going to the gym almost obsessively, and I'm trying to stay away from alcohol. I'm trying so hard to appear strong. Some of my friends have said it's a little scary how cold I've been. It's the only way I can get through my day without losing my mind. Nights are really tough. I struggle to sleep, sometimes drink to help me get through it, which I'm not proud of, and sometimes I cry myself to sleep.
It seems your wife is not the person you thought she was. Poor moral values and low self-esteem must run in her family. I wouldn't be surprised if she had been cheating on you throughout the marriage and you only noticed now due to a momentary slip by your ex-friend. Your wife seems very skilled at lying, cheating, and compartmentalizing her life. Your ex-wife is a very troubled person. Be glad you realize this now and are divorcing her. Please stop drinking, as it will only make you feel worse.
I imagine the lover was just waiting for your wife's mother to pass away, hoping he could get half of her inheritance as well. Finding out that your wife won't be receiving any inheritance from OBs showed him that not going to happen, but now he wants reconciliation. Both of them are just left alone.